Well, first of all, hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone. Um, as Shah said, my name is Ikbal. A lot of people know me as Jay, as my work name. Um, I live in Long Benton and I'm 40 years old. And I work for DWP as an IT support manager. And I'm now in my 5th week from recovering after being tested positive from COVID. It's been a very stressful and difficult experience, and I'm still slowly recovering. And today's probably the best day I've felt in a long time. And inshallah, fingers crossed. I by next week I hopefully plan to get back to work if I can.
Tell us about the symptoms. What was it like? How tough has it been for you?
I think the first symptoms that I got was neck and back pains. I was feeling really tired, lack of energy. I was feeling really weak. Over the weekend, I was struggling to sleep a lot. And that's when I phoned my manager at work and I said, look, I can't physically work because I'm struggling to cope with some of the symptoms now. Slowly after that, I started losing my voice a little. I had a bit of a sore throat. I felt like I was bunged up at times. I lost my sense of smell. I lost my taste. I lost my appetite because I lost that taste, and nothing was feeling right to me. I was always feeling tired, feeling lazy. I felt like I had no energy. I was feeling very lethargic, and I just didn't want to do anything. And I think being locked up in a room as well for that period of time, I was struggling a lot. And at the same time, physically I wasn't feeling well, but at the same time, mentally, it was affecting me too. And those are some of the symptoms that I had. And even though I've recovered from them now, unfortunately, it's had some side effects where it's still affecting me. I've been to the doctors twice. I've had a blood test. I've called the emergency helpline, and I've got some chest pains, which I'm getting regularly. That's going to be something that's going to be probably going on for probably a few weeks, few months. And the doctor has said with COVID, it affects everybody differently. So for me, how it's affected me, it's affected my heart and my lung area. I've had some heart issues in the past before, over the last few years. So I'm struggling to breathe, heavy breathing, a shortage of breath.
What have you kind of struggled with the most?
I think the most struggling that I had, I think it was more the tiredness and the fatigue, and the chest pains. It's quite scary because in my family background, there's a lot of people that have passed away with like heart attacks and stuff. So, and because I've had some heart issues myself in the past, it's really scary because every single time you feel that anxiety and anxious kind of feeling and those palpitations kicking in, you feel like, that could be it, and recently, we've lost somebody close to us through COVID as well. So that's been playing in my mind quite a lot, and you get scared sometimes thinking that, look, what if I have to suddenly go into the hospital? And that's that fear that you have. So yeah, that's the thing that's been struggling the most. It's the fatigue, the energy, the tiredness. If I'm sitting up for too long, I feel like I need to lie down. I need to always sleep and lie down. So if I'm at home, which I have been majority of the times now, is as soon as I wake up from bed for the first 2-3 hours, I'm in a lot of pain and agony. I'm 40 years old, but I feel like I'm 60 years old. That's how bad it's affecting me. And it's now in my 5th week now where I still don't feel like I've had one single day where I felt, normal. I'll get the odd few periods every day in the evening. Generally in the evenings, I'm feeling okay. But as soon as I go back to sleep, because my body is relaxing and I wake up the following day, it's going through the same, routine again, the same process again, where I'm struggling. So I think that's been the hardest thing to do so far for me.
I mean, would you say you're generally quite fit and healthy?
I was very fit and healthy prior to COVID. I was frequently going to the gym, like 5, 6 times a week. I was working out in the house as well, before we were allowed to go back to the gyms. So, I was looking after myself really well. I was in great shape. I was eating well. I was healthy. I was feeling very positive. And, it's still, I took all the precautions and all measurements. And it doesn't matter how fit and how healthy you are, COVID will still get you. And that's the scary thing. You think that, yeah, I'm still kind of young. And we've got this belief that, it's affecting mainly the older generations, which, clearly I'm showing as an example here, I've caught it. My best mate's caught it. Somebody that I work with has caught the virus as well, and they're currently going through isolation periods. So it doesn't matter what age you are, how young you, how old you are, it will get you. I think, maybe in some ways I've been fortunate that I didn't get the severe side effects. I mean, I still struggled, and I mean, 5 weeks now, I haven't been able to work, so it has been very difficult for me. But I think because I've had that fit and healthy side, and I was looking after myself, you know, I'm probably recovering better than some of the other people who have been suffering with COVID for not just like 6 to 8 weeks, but some people have been suffering for months. And that's a scary, feeling to have and a scary thing to think of. So thankfully, yeah, I'm on the mend, but at the same time, there was a period where I took a test about a week and a half ago and it came back negative because for those 2 days I was feeling all right. And for about 2, 3 days, my plan was to get back to work. And then the weekend came. And then next thing you know, I started getting the pains again and I was feeling tired again. And again, I started having those same symptoms again. So it doesn't matter when you think you're going to be fit and healthy, it's a long-term thing and it will affect you. For some people, unfortunately, it will affect you for the rest of your life, maybe as well.
And you touched on, you kind of locking yourself in your room. Talk to us more about what kind of disruption it's had on your life. Before all of this, what were you like? And now with what you've gone through, what is it like?
Well, I'm quite a sociable and outgoing person, even though when we were going through lockdown and with all the social distancing measures in place, if and when I can, taking all precautions, I would still go and see my close family and friends. I normally would like to go out for dinner. I like going to the restaurant. When the cinemas opened, I was thrilled that the cinemas were open because I'm a movie fanatic. I love going to the cinemas. So that was a new thing, coming back to us. I could finally go back to the cinemas and do what I normally used to do. So I used to have a very sociable routine, and I was always working from the office. I didn't like working from home because as an IT manager, I have to interact with a lot of end users. So we have to have a lot of physical interactions, you know, and those kind of things. Because I'm a people's person, um, it has disrupted me on doing those things now. So for me, being locked up, especially for the first 3 weeks, I would say it was obviously physically I wasn't well, but mentally it affected me quite hard because I was feeling always scared. It was on, it was always on my mind. I was conscious about, what if the virus spread to somebody in my family? I live with my parents and my younger brother. So, I was always trying to be extra careful. Um, you know, I felt a bit useless. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get out the room. The only time I would get out of the room is to use the bathroom. Um, any food that I wanted, I would have to wait for my parents or my brother to come and, leave something outside for me, outside my room in the passage. Then I'll go and get it. Having to wear a mask all the time was frustrating. And because I was struggling breathing anyway with the virus, having the mask on when you're wanting to go out and use the bathroom, it was difficult having to wear, the surgical gloves all the time. Anything that I touched in the bathroom and the toilet, I was wiping, cleaning. I would use those, what do you call it, the antibacterial disinfectant sprays. So I was carrying that around with me, spraying anywhere that I went, whether it's in the passage or the bathroom or the toilet. So it was very, very difficult. And I think because I was feeling so weak and vulnerable, and at the same time, on my mind, it was playing up that what if I spread the virus to my parents? And every single time, I would always be checking up on my mum and dad, saying, "Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay? Do you have any symptoms?" A few days later, my dad and my mum were feeling a bit unwell for a day, and I started getting panicky, and I started getting anxiety because I was getting really scared now. Because that was always my fear. It's not about catching the virus myself. It's my parents, and I told them to go and get tested, and they waited 24 hours, and alhamdulillah, thankfully, their tests came back negative. So I had at least a bit of peace of mind. But at the same time, because I was still in the house physically, it was still playing up, even though they're negative and I'm positive, because it's an airborne virus, you just don't know. They could catch it anytime. And it was also in my mind because my best friend had the virus, her family had the virus. And then suddenly I found out that her dad went to hospital, and he was in very, very serious condition. So, I just kept on thinking about her family. And at the same time, I was thinking about my family, in case what if it happens to some of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really hard, really difficult.
Tell us, you mentioned before your friend, someone who you know, has had it. Tell us, do you know anybody else? Tell us about that. Well,
Yes, so my close friend, one of my best friends, she had the virus, and all of her family got tested with COVID. Um, they, for them, all of them, they were completely bedbound. Even though I was bedbound as well, I think due to my fitness level, I think, I didn't get to that extent where it was, so severe and I had to go into hospital, thankfully. But for them, they had the worst case of it, and unfortunately, their dad was so bad that he collapsed twice on one night. The ambulance came. It was very, very serious. He was struggling to breathe. He had a chest infection. He was in his 80s. He was in his mid 80s. The strange thing is, even though he was 85 years old, he was actually a very fit and healthy guy. He had no underlying health issues whatsoever. He was very active. He was always going out and about. He could look after himself very well. When you see him, he did not look 85 years old. You would think probably he's about 70. And he got taken into hospital, and like within 24 hours, next thing he's in ICU. And then a couple of days later, it was so severe that the hospital, the nurses, the doctors were telling their family, like, look, you need to go and say your farewell to him because I don't think he's going to make it. And then they had to make a decision to put him in a ventilator, and he was in the ventilator for like almost 2 weeks. And unfortunately, um, they had to break the news to them that he wasn't going to make it, and they had to turn the machine off. And he passed away last week, just a few days ago.
what would your advice be to people, if anybody watching this?
All I would say to everybody is, please be careful, be vigilant, don't get complacent, because a lot of people I've seen around, they're not taking all these social distancing measurements. Don't go out unless you have to for essentials. Stay within your social bubbles. And like I said, just be careful. I mean, if you go to the shops or anything like that for grocery shopping, when you come home, first of all, make sure you're always wearing a mask, wear gloves if possible. Use antibacterial wipes all the times, use hand sanitizers all the time, and don't take any risks. Don't take any risks because, look, you know, people are still going out and doing normal things, and that's the reason why, you know, people are now getting this virus. A few months ago, I was very, very skeptical, and to be honest, even probably I wasn't taking it as seriously as I should have. And now it's hit us hard. You know, now we're getting to know people who have had the viruses, people who have been close to us, family, friends, relatives, people that I work with. You know, they've been tested positive. You know, so it's getting close to home now. And just think about your family. End of the day, that is the most important thing. Think about your family and your friends, and don't put anybody else in danger. Even though you think, yeah, you know, it's not that serious, you know, but end of the day, you might be carrying the virus and get any at all, and you could be spreading the virus to somebody else, and it might affect them completely differently. You just don't know. And this is the thing with COVID, it affects everybody differently. For some people, it's mild. For some people, it's very, very severe. For some people, you're hospital bound. And for some people, unfortunately, it's come to a point where it's death. So the only thing I can say is, in the end, is just please be careful.